exercise. I want you to go ahead and close your eyes and go to your happy place. That might be somewhere out in nature. It might be a room in your house. And we're going to deep breathe, and we're going to breathe through our nose for a count of 4. So in, your tummy should expand, 2, 3, 4, and then out our mouth for 4, 2, 3, 4. We're going to do it again. Inhale through your nose. I should hear it. 2, 3, 4, and exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. One more time. Inhale. 1, 2. Good. The chest shouldn't move. Everything's down in the tummy. And exhale. Now, stay like that. And then we're going to, I call that what you just did, a 4 by 4. 4 inhale, 4 exhale. Now we're going to do a 4 by 7 by 8. So inhale 4. Tummy should expand. I know we were taught not to expand your tummy. 4, hold for 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale for 8. Let it all out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Again, inhale for 4. 3, 4. Hold for 7. 4, 5, 6, 7. And exhale.
Relax.
Yeah. And that's like what we call 4 by 7 by 8. Okay. I want you to feel these muscles up here. Right up here, they're called levator scapula for trap, if you want to move your anatomy. All right, so what we're going to talk about today, and there is a theme going on, so this is exciting. I'm over here to Melissa, and I heard someone over here say they're in a fight or flight survival. Survival, fight or flight, same thing. I'm going to talk about what happens when we're in that fight or flight, that survival mode to our bodies. Okay, how it creates chronic disease and what we can do about it, because we can do a lot about it. All right. My name is Lisa Prather. I'm an occupational therapist. I co-own with my husband Holistic Integration. We're just up Meridian at 91st and Meridian. And I'm also co-host of the Voice of Health radio show podcast. We're on WIBC on Sunday nights. And I'm Grandma Gigi, that's two grandsons, that's my favorite thing. So if you might want to see, I'm going to try not to, there's some anatomy stuff, but if you want to see the slides for sure. Title is Calming the Storm Within, Fight or Flight, Rest and Digest. We're going to talk about the balance because we need both. Tell me if you're going to take a picture. I can. But okay, the first is understanding the autonomic nervous system. So when you think about the autonomic nervous system, always think about automatic. Everything in our body that kind of just runs automatically. Like we don't tell our heart to beat, right? Our heart just beats. All the chemicals from our endocrine system, we're not saying go here, go there. It just does. So that's the autonomic nervous system. And then we have under that our sympathetic nervous system and our parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic system on the left is our fight, flight, and freeze, which is probably of all fight, flight, freeze is really the worst to be in. And then the parasympathetic is our rest and digest. Now, you need both. Let's go back to the sympathetic. The sympathetic is when you get her done. You need that. Sometimes you need adrenaline. But what we're finding in our practice, that we've been around close to 40 years, and you go pre-COVID or post-COVID. And when we would see people and do their blood work, maybe 10 to 20% of people coming in had adrenal fatigue. Your adrenals are on your kidneys. They're a fear-based organ. Usually they're affected because of fear and adrenaline. And so that was pre-COVID. Now post-COVID, I would say 80 to 90% of the blood work we see has adrenal fatigue, adrenal stress. Just what's going on in our world, just the division we're seeing, the conflict. And even if you're not stressed, you can feel it, can't you, just in the environment? But we need our sympathetic system. And then you have the parasympathetic, that's where the healing goes on. When God said we need Sabbath, and that's the parasympathetic time, the time that we regenerate. Actually, cells are regenerated when we're in our bodies, when we're in that parasympathetic mode. So to balance, we need the balance. And what we're seeing in our practice is that most people are in this fight or flight, 80%, and then in the parasympathetic, 20%. And we need to flip that. Really, you should probably be in the fight or flight 20% of the time, and in the parasympathetic 80% of the time. And we're gonna talk about that. I'm gonna have some exercises to go over to help us move into the parasympathetic. In the sympathetic, I don't know if you can see that, but what happens physiologically is our heart rate increases, our respiratory rate, we start breathing from our chest rapidly. Our blood pressure increases, and I'm going to tell you my story because that's the issue I'm having right now, and pupil dilation. What decreases is our digestion. We start having gut issues, bloatness, urine production can decrease. So that's under the sympathetic. The parasympathetic is almost like the opposite. Our digestion increases, our heart rate decreases, our respiratory rate. You'll see we're breathing not from our chest up here, but down here. You have a diaphragm, it's a muscle, right? We don't exercise it enough, but that deep breathing, that's why the tummy goes out, because the diaphragm pushes down. And then our blood pressure decreases, and then pupil dilation. Okay. So in the stress response, we go into that fight or flight. And they talk about it's like being chased by a lion and tiger, but we don't have those in Indiana. So we got Stephanie did this. Thank you, Stephanie. So again, the physiological changes under the stress response: elevated heart rate, increased blood pressure, increased muscle tension, rapid breathing, heightened awareness. When we evaluate someone, we go right to that muscle I was telling you about, that levator scapula, just like the hand of our tummy. And if that's tight, you're probably in a fight or flight mode. That's a big indicator. If you're breathing up here, be really aware in rapid breathing, you're probably in that fight or flight mode. Heightened awareness, too. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I'm going through. 2 months ago, I decided on this subject, right? And I am living it out. So always be careful, you speakers, what you're going to say. Probably live it out. 2 weeks ago, I was in our office, and I'm just a go-go person, type A. And I was out talking to some patients. I was sitting down, and I stood up, and I felt like I was going to pass out. And I've been having some feelings of that lightheadedness, but I thought, I just need to eat. And good thing I was at my office. I got a lot of good care there. They took me, and I laid down, took my blood pressure, and I'm usually perfect blood pressure, 120/60, and I was 190/90. My husband's an acupuncturist. He put needles where he needed to put needles. And then my atlas was out. So the two things we look at to balance the body is your nervous system and your endocrine system. Because if those aren't balanced, then you're gonna have health issues. So that's what we're working on all the time. So the atlas is that first vertebrae. Mine was out. And so that affects the whole nervous system. So you got the autonomic nervous system that's affecting the sympathetic, the parasympathetic, and we're going to talk about the vagus nerve. So I had to get that in alignment, and so within 45 minutes I was back down to 120/60. And then I had to make some decisions. Really, what is it what am I stressed about? Looking at every area in my life. And so the decision, I'm going on a 3-month sabbatical from the office. I just needed to be away, and setting some boundaries in some relationships. So those were some decisions I made. I ended up in the hospital Sunday, same issue. My husband was gone. I think if he would have been able to treat me, I wouldn't have had to go in. But I wanted to check hard. My heart was excellent. My blood work's excellent. And it's almost, I don't know if any of you have had a panic attack, but that's what I'm calling it. And it's interesting, I've been talking to women about it, how many women have suffered about it and haven't even shared about it, or just starting to share about it. So that's my story, so living it out. Here is the fight or flight. What happens in the stress response, your adrenaline just shoots up. That's what we're finding in the blood work with the adrenals. Cortisol release. Do you know anybody that wakes up at 3 a.m.? That's your cortisol rush. Okay? Yeah, that really pay attention to that. That means your cortisol, that hormone is releasing, you're probably in a fight or flight stress response. And then immune suppression. People that continue to get sick, one thing after another, their immune is suppressed. That's prolonged fight or flight response. The cost of chronic stress, heart disease, fatigue, digestive issues, inflammation, anxiety, burnout, disconnection. So stress causes a lot of physiological issues. I'll let you get that picture. When you get it, get it. So why do we stay in this fight or flight? Another decision I didn't tell you I had to make, this digital overstimulation. I had started watching the news. I had watched it, but I had to really stop that. And then the scrolling, the reels. Yeah, and especially before bed. That's not a good idea. So now I just put on soothing music and play that when I'm going to bed. The emotional trauma is another mistake, and so it's really important to get help for that. I'm going to someone that does neurofeedback on Friday. She's going to help me with that. And then for sleep or diet, that's really important. We should be getting 7 to 8 hours every night.
A week, right?
A week. Yeah. Good thing we're strong women.
I know. Sounds good.
All right, let's talk about the parasympathetic. Rest and digest state. It reduces inflammation, improves gastrointestinal conditions, lower heart rate, sense of calm. And I'm here too that it repairs the cells in your body, boosts your immune system, and helps you engage the ability to relate, connect with others. I wasn't real pleasant when I was in 100% fight or flight. I'm not pleasant to be around. I don't have the attention to listen to people like that are in that fight or flight, constant. So it does affect relationships. Okay. So how do we shift from fight or flight to rest and digest? I want to talk a little bit on the right side, measuring your stress level. In your bag, you'll have a coupon for ANS. It's an autonomic nervous system test. It's valued at $195, but it's free to you if you call and bring that coupon in. And what that does, is my glasses over there? I need to read this. So we have this autonomic nervous system test, and that test, we're going to talk about the vagus nerve. We're going to talk about it right now. Vagus nerve is the longest cranial nerve. It goes all the way from the brainstem to our colon. And they're finding out more and more about it. And it just goes through your body. They call it the vagabond. It got its name, Vegas, from being a vagabond. It just wanders. It goes up the diaphragm. That's why the deep breathing is so important. So it'll test how your vagal nerve is doing. It'll test the parasympathetic and the sympathetic, and your heart health and inflammation. So I just had the test, and my heart's doing really well, but I had inflammation in my arteries that is coming from that stress response. So, yeah, so that's in your bags there. Yeah, it's non-invasive. It takes about 15 minutes. They'll put cuffs on you. You have to do sitting, standing, lying down, hold your breath. But it's a great test. And then, so the natural vagus nerve stimulation exercises, everybody at your table, you got a handout, just go ahead and grab those. The natural vagus nerve stimulation, yeah, I have, you can pass those out. All right, so let's go through this. This is what we give out to our patients. The reason is the vagus nerve transmits information from the brain to tissues and all the organs in the body from the neck down to the colon. It delivers information from the gut to the brain. You've been hearing a lot about the brain, gut, the gut, brain. Helps regulate heart rate, blood pressure, digestion, swallowing, movement, sweating, and more. Therefore, activating your vagus nerve, which works through the parasympathetic nervous system, can reduce inflammation, improve your gastrointestinal conditions, migraines, depression, and other conditions. So we have patients pick out 2 of these, okay? I'm not really into there's one gag. I don't want to do that one. But the first one is sing or hum. Does anybody like to hum? Yeah. Your mom hums? Yeah? I don't like to fly, so you'll hear me humming when I'm playing. And someone sent me John Glenn, make it to the moon, but he flew in a rocket, John Glenn, a picture of him humming as he's being shot to the moon. I don't know if he needs to hum. And then gargling, gargle with water several times a day, drink several large glasses of water per day, and gargle each sip until you finish the glass of water. Do this exercise for several weeks to help strengthen the vagal nerve pathway. That's what that does, yeah. So after you brush your teeth, gargle. And it's recommended to pick 2 of these exercises daily and do them for at least 2 weeks if you feel like you're in that sympathetic mode. We did the deep and slow breathing. I like the 4x4, I like the 4x7x8. The Valsalva maneuver, you breathe out strongly through your mouth while pinching your nose tightly closed and do 5 exhalations. This increases the pressure inside your chest cavity, increasing vagal tone. So if you're feeling like, I feel like my vertebrae up in that upper back is more affected, and so I like to do that one because it's getting that vagal nerve in that area. Does that make sense? Because the vagal nerve again goes all the way from the brainstem to the colon. There's the gag one, if you like that. You guys have been hearing about the cold exposure, the cold plunges. Has anybody done one? I've done. Yeah. Feel great, not while you're doing it, but after. But if you don't want to do that, you just throw cold water on your face. That helps, or take ice and put it on your face. I do, though, finish the hot shower with the cold. If you can stand it for 30 seconds, it's ideal, even if it's just for 5 seconds. It helps the lymph system too. And then going outside with cold temperatures.
I choose that one.
And then meditation. The other thing that's not on this sheet is eye movements are really helpful. So when I was flat on my back, I call it FOB, they're taking my blood pressure and I didn't want to be alone. I started doing eye movements, and what it'll do is reset your vagus nerve. So you keep your head still, and then you take your eyes and you go to 3 o'clock. Okay, so you're looking and you're focusing on something, but I'm not turning my head. And then you wait till you have a vagal response, which could be a cough. For me, it's usually a yawn, and then you reset it. Sometimes even just coughing, like a cough, can reset it. You reset your heart. And then when you do that, then you go to 9 o'clock, and then you'll get some type of response, and then you reset it. So some other things that we have in our office, like I told you, is the atlas orthogonal adjustment. That's that first vertebrae we get in without popping or twisting. We do it with x-rays and align that, and it's very important to align the whole nervous system. We also do supplementation, is very important. Omega and diet. A Mediterranean diet is the best when you're in that fight or flight. Otherwise, you're going to feel like you're so inflamed. And we do cranial sacral work. Stephanie, you love that.
Yeah, I've been having a lot of those recently.
Yeah.
Very helpful.
Yeah. And then I know, like for me, I grew up in a home where how busy you were was equated how successful. Anybody from that home? Yeah. And so I really, my husband, he'll just say, you have to rest. And I'm like, okay. Are you resting? I'm not a good rester. And this is, I think the author is unknown, but it says, when I'm resting because my body is weak, I need to remember that I'm not wasting the day doing nothing. I'm doing exactly what I need to do. I am recovering. Our bodies need to recover and heal. So 2 books I would recommend. The Body Keeps the Score. You've heard of that. That's more of a technical book, a good book. But the real one that really helped me is The Sacred Rest. Yeah, she's a Christian, she's an MD. Yeah, you know, yeah. Yeah. So that's it. Thank you.
About like seminars.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one, especially this month.
Yeah. So we have monthly seminars. Thanks, Stephanie, for doing our marketing. I don't do it. The last Wednesday of every month, we have a seminar, and it's Mental Health Month. So we're going to be doing a seminar on mental health. If you go to holisticintegration.com or the Voice of Health Radio, you can do that. And as far as our podcasts, you can download. They're all topical. We have 600 episodes. And so if there's something that you're interested in, thyroid, you can just type in a topic.
And the seminars are free.
The podcast, Sunday nights at 9 p.m. on WIBC. What's it called? Oh, the Voice of Health Radio. But you can go to that website, or you can go into the App Store, and she has cards.
I have been a patient at Holistic Integration before it was rebranded.
That's how we met.
Practice. And I've been a patient for years. I've had 2 really bad car accidents right in a row, and I thought I was dying. And I went to every doctor. They just gave me drugs to cover up the symptoms. It was only when I went to Holistic Integration and started getting the right kind of care for my body, I'm completely healed. I had graduated from every day to monthly, and now, even though they want to see me more often, I go about every 90 days, and it's so worth it. It's a powerful experience. So, just a little plug for you all.